Alright guys, so we're just back down here on the job again. We came down yesterday after a day of hard rain. You can see the tarp on the side here is up. Got this cross beam laid out and also started peeling off the first layer of plywood on this deck laminate here. Went pretty good.
Yeah.
So today we're gonna continue that, peel off the rest of it over here, and also cut in on this next layer, just a couple inches or so. So then when we stick our next piece down, it'll just be directly on the beams, and then the overlap piece will be the next one, and it'll just have a good overlap, add lots of strength to it. And also, we're going to be notching out that beam to receive 4x4 going that way on both sides. So that's kind of the plan at the moment.
Yeah, I got a couple little spots to trim up and get prepared, then start getting that laid out. Probably just router a little pocket in right here for the 4x to go into. And just notch that one, just like half lap it, I guess.
Yeah, kind of like how we did in the back.
We're going to have a layer of plywood on the ceiling of this anyway, so it'll tie everything together real well. Got a lot of strength to it.
Yep. And then lots of glass too. We're going to lay it up thick coming around the risers there, the coamings. Yeah, we laid down our chunks over here yesterday and kind of got an idea of what kind of size we'll have on the coaming here, and I think we'll like it. Seems like it'll be sufficient. We were playing with the idea of pushing that one forward up to where those pillars are, those support columns going down, but we kind of don't want to get into that right now. Just add more work to our more work to our list.
Yeah, like the biggest thing is start to crowd it up here too.
Yeah, for sure. We're envisioning.
At some point there'll be a deck winch right here for seining, and so just having that deck winch right here, you'll still be able to pass through right now. But if you bring this hatch coaming up to here, and then you have a deck winch, all of a sudden it just gets really tight by the mast here and everything. And
yeah,
that's no fun having to squeeze around stuff all the time.
Yeah, and if we ever decide to, it'll be easy enough to move it forward some more.
Yeah.
At least this way we'll just get an idea of the opening, and like with our math, we figure it's plenty for what we'll need, just enough to get it towed down there.
Yeah. This deck isn't a forever deck. This deck will be replaced before too many years go by, I'm sure.
Yeah.
We'll be making some changes to stuff, so this is just enough to hold it over until then. So all in all, this wood looks pretty good. There's a few soft spots on this 3/4 inch underneath too, but same thing. I mean, the deck is solid. As long as it feels solid under feet, you know, it doesn't feel spongy, it doesn't sink when you walk in it, it's fine. It'll be good until we replace it. Still got plenty of years left in it before it gets to that stage, so a few soft spots, a little pocket of rot here and there. It's just kind of can't do much about it right now, not without getting in here and replacing this whole deck, and we just don't have time for that right now.
Yeah. Alright guys, so just doing some notching here. Got our 2 cross beams cut to length, and notched one side. We're going to notch this other one across here, get them squared up, and then notch our beam over there.
Yeah.
Making some decent progress. Got that layer of laminate off. Still come around here and do the rest. Get into that.
Beautiful. It's perfect. yeah, we'll just get these lined up now and mark our notches for this beam, and we shall be on our way to success. This is going to work out pretty good, I think. Amazing the difference, like what about a foot makes for deck space. It's gonna be really nice having these sides opened up right here.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem like this is a lot of room, but it is a lot of room when you're working somewhere. So it really does make a big difference.
Yeah, we actually threw the measuring tape on it and fit one of the regular fish totes over here. Size fish tote, so that'll be pretty nice, having that flexibility.
Yeah, if we need to have one on deck to hold some fish or something, or bait or ice or whatever.
Yep. Perfect.
Your room to drop it in there, it won't slide around. Look how nice, so.
Oh yeah. So that'll be basically the size of the opening right there.
Mm-hmm.
That looks good.
Yeah, so it'll work out nice.
So we'll get these guys marked and carry on notching. Well, making good progress here. We just had some lunch. Mom brought us down some tasty food. So we got our deck beams all screwed in and fastened, and we've just been working on the plywood part of it. Over here I finished removing this layer of laminate. Just got a little strip to go around, like over there. So that's what I'm about to do, and Dad's been working on the plywood.
Yeah, so now I can come in here and I'm just gonna rip a slot along here and remove this layer of 3/4 inch so we can kind of tie these layers in so that they overlap. They're staggered, tie in a little bit better. Things like that, they turn out less lumpy when you're fiberglassing and a lot stronger. So we'll get that removed, and then we're starting to cut the new skin to put on top. We already got one piece of 3/4 inch over there, and then we'll cut a piece of 5/8 to go over the top, and then that'll level the deck again. Same thing here. Got our coaming just kind of sitting here to start getting an idea of what we're going to need to do with it. It's going to need to be cut down a little bit more still, and then of course shortened quite a bit.
Yeah, so the old coaming, before we cut it off, we put it to the height that we thought we might like it at, and it seemed pretty good there. So we're probably going to shoot for around that range, which was, I think, 9 inches.
8
or 8 inches maybe.
Yeah, 8 or 9.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it seemed pretty
take
comfortable.
Look at it, make sure that that's what we want.
Yeah. Yeah. So shouldn't be too hard to cut those down. Hopefully.
Yeah.
Don't really foresee any big hiccups there.
And now that we have this beam in place right here, we can kind of start to get an idea of what we need to do. Back here, we'll be putting another hatch in here, because this opening that you can see right here is going to be filled and create 2 separate fish holes. We want it that way for a couple different reasons. Number one, we don't know if we can tank this whole area. And tanking is when you literally fill the fish hole full of water. Completely full, overflowing full.
Yep.
And we don't know if we can tank this much safely and not have issues with the boat being too heavy or not. So we're playing it safe by having a second fish hold. We can tank the front, put crab in it. In the back, we can keep our ice and bait. That avoids having totes on deck. Same with some of our other fisheries. We can have extra ice in the back. Just creates a lot more flexibility for us.
Yeah, it's similar to our setup on the fishtail. It's just like it's been tried and true for us on there, and really never had any like cons to having it that way either. It's just been like, it works for us, and that's what we're used to.
Yeah.
If we just had one huge hold here, then it really does limit our I guess options.
Yeah, and most larger salmon boats actually do have 2 holds too, and so that kind of goes back to that again. You're going to tank down your front one, you're going to chill all that water. When you start putting fish in it, you have to displace the water that you basically paid to make cold, because you're running a generator, you're running an RSW unit, you're chilling that fish, and that costs, or you're chilling that water, that costs money. So as you put fish in there, that water will go overboard, but if you have somewhere to put it, like a back hold, then you can put it in there. And if you get fish, then you put it in there.
Yep.
And you're saving some money. So there's a lot of different reasons to do it that way. And so I guess back to what I was saying is, now that we have this in place, we can start to envision what we need for a hatch back here and get it framed out, because we kind of want to do that all right now.
Yeah.
We've got this big mess going on. We got everything cut up. We're looking at something about 4 feet wide this way and 3 feet long. The one piece, I think, that has bolts to secure it to the deck, and it won't be raised up like this. It'll just be right off the deck a little bit, just enough to later on when we flush deck when we put a little false deck on, it'll just be flush and we can walk along without a tripping hazard or anything. And that'll allow us to take that off. We can get down here, we can ice fish if that's what we got going on, whatever. You'll be able to stand up in that opening with your head up above the deck and work comfortably and not be hunched over. So yeah, pretty happy with the with the project so far. It's coming right along.
Mm-hmm.
Starting to kind of take shape and getting past the demo and actually putting things back together, which always feels good.
Yeah. Yeah, the framing is always a slow part, so we've just been chipping away at that.
Yeah.
But like Dad says, we got these in and got some 2x6 just stub pieces to stick in the middle there. And yeah, cutting the plywood was always a good sign.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where we're at. We'll keep on cutting.
Yep.
Okay. Well, spend the morning doing some thinking on what we're doing going forward here as far as the coaming height and stuff like that. Just thinking about different scenarios. As you can see here, this is a mock-up of what a false deck would look like. A false deck is just basically a deck above your sub deck or your main deck, and it's pretty much just to keep water and stuff from.
It can kind of be for a number of reasons. Most steel boats have a false deck because depending on the fishery that you're involved in, if you're like pot fishing or something, steel on steel, you'd always be pushing pots across the deck, scratching the paint off of it,
Right.
making it rust,
Beating them up.
beating
In our
them
case,
up.
it's a fiberglass deck, so if you drop
Yeah.
a pot on its corner, it'd poke right through that.
Yeah, it could
or
damage
at
this
least damage it.
fiberglass easily, so there's a good chance that someday we might be involved in like the cod pot fishery where we're using crab pots to catch cod. So we're just trying to kind of forward think and work things around it. We're probably going to have a tanner fishery for quite a few years to come. There's a chance that we might want to use like square crab pots instead of the round ones that we're using. In that case, we're going to have to land them and be pushing them back. We won't be able to just pick them up like we can now with two guys and move them, or just roll them with one guy. It's really a two-man operation. You're sliding it on the deck.
Yeah.
That's not good for fiberglass. It's a good way to beat it up. One of the biggest issues is if we're using those kind of pots, you need to have a pot launcher to get them overboard easily. You can pick them up and push them. It's a lot of work.
I mean, I can do it with our rounds, but they're probably 80 to 100 pounds. And
Yeah.
they're actually, like, you're only lifting half of that because the other half is rested on the rail. But talking about big square pots, they're 400, 500 pounds, depending how heavy you build them. So.
Yep, and more awkward. So
Yep.
with all that in mind, we're just kind of trying to forward think. And part of the problem is if we used a raised hatch like this above the deck, there isn't room for a pot launcher in here to work properly. You need room where your pot sits here to flip it down and then move it. So this would always be in the way. You'd be hanging up on it. You'd have to probably hook it with a picking hook and push it over. It'd just be a lot more problematic. And so what we're going to do is we're going to make this flush with the intention of putting a false deck on it one day. Doesn't necessarily mean that we have to do it right away. We can certainly work around it, especially if we're just using our round tanner pots.
Yep.
And for jigging and salmon and everything else, a raised hatch is fine. They're not in the way. But we're going to design this so it is. And so that's one of the benefits of a false deck, is that you don't beat up your deck underneath. And another nice benefit is that you can make it a little bit flatter. This deck has a lot of crown in it. From the center to right here, it's got about 3 inches of crown. And you don't really notice it a lot, but when you get over near the sides here, you really do feel it. And when the boat's rolling around, you'll really notice it. It tends to want to push you into the side right here, into the rail. That's not a good thing. You know, to be accelerating towards the rail, no thanks. So a false deck, you know, you can end up with a flatter platform, but you still get all the benefits of a crown deck, which helps your vessel shed water.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have water that comes over the rail or whatever, it'll drain right through these holes and right through the scuppers. So we just kind of did a quick mock-up here. This is more or less what it would look like. We'd have some tabs over on this side to carry a stringer across. We do the same thing over here, and you just have stringers going across this way, kind of like deck beams, and then your planks on top of it. Something very similar to that. With that in mind, we can establish the height that we want for our hatch, which is just going to be, it measures out to be about 5 3/4 inches off this deck right here. We're going to make it a little bit higher than this because it's easy to vary the height of this just depending on how high your stringers are. So we'll give ourselves a little wiggle room in that regard. And now that we kind of have that in mind and established, we can start to cut these down. So the nice thing is that we can cut the outside of this and cut across to the foam. We'll leave the inside long, and that's going to come down and cover up this new beam that we put in and all the way around. So it'll get a nice layer across this. We'll still be able to utilize the laminate that's on this now.
So we'll also have to take the gel coat off everything. We're going to put a fresh layer of glass on, so all this will have to be ground / planed off.
Yeah, just to get down to bare glass again.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing right here where the seam is going to be. Probably hit that with the planer. It'll knock that stuff off pretty quick.
Yeah.
And we'll start getting that prepped and get this laid out and ready to glass here in the next couple days.
Just got the blue board cut. Some expanding foam in the leftover cracks there. About to glue my board down. Dad got this thing trimmed up. It looks like he's doing some pounding, getting the inside supports removed.
This might actually work.
Yeah. Yeah, it looks like it's coming together. Or coming apart in this case.
Yeah. I hate to throw away a nice piece of material here. I mean, pretty good workmanship.
Yeah.
Take a little time to make it new.
Yeah, taking the time to at least salvage what we can off of it, which is good.
Yeah.
Because you're right, it would take a good bit of effort to make that cap area. It's still 6 inches of plywood and...
Yeah, and they did a good job on the cap here.
Yeah.
It'll be good with a couple more layers of a 24-ounce mat, so it's bi-directional roving fabric, so it'll beef it up nice and good, like 2 layers of that on here.
Mm-hmm. Build it up nice and heavy, like on the fishtail.
Yep, so I just set my blade at a slight angle to match the taper on this, and I cut down one side, then I cut down the other. This piece here is going to overlap on the inside of the coaming, and that's going to cover up that new beam that we put in. It's also going to cover up the plywood right there. So once I trim the rest of this and the other side and get broke off, then I can put it in that corner, and hopefully it should be matched up pretty well.
Still on hold for this back part. I suppose we will be cutting into it to figure our hatch layout pretty soon, but we just kind of want to get this forward side more or less buttoned up. If we can get this stuff, at least a layer of glass and mat down, we don't have to worry about any rain or stuff coming from the front, because that's our vulnerable area, as you can see. And put a little dam up to divert water yesterday. It's a sudden downpour, so that worked for the time being. But
so far we're okay, but we haven't had any big storms rip through here. If we get a hard easterly or southeast, then we're definitely going to get some water driving in through these openings over here, and then probably soak all this out. So
yeah, never
it'd be
any
nice
fun
to get this covered and just get a couple layers of glass on it, then we'll be fine.
Yeah. So yeah, like Dad says, we'll get going here. I'm going to work on the blue board while he measures out and gets that stuff done. So progress.
Trying to figure out our next game plan here.
Yeah, like we don't have a big enough hole already.
Yep.
Just want to make it a little bit bigger.
So those of you that are following along, we reduced the footprint of our main hatch coaming right here. It used to be where this new plywood is, and this is going to be the new hole right here. So what we're doing is we're dividing this fish hold into two, a large section up forward and then a smaller one in the back. So this will frame out our new coaming for the main fish hold, and then where this beam runs across right by this ladder, that hole will be filled, that bulkhead will be put in right there to create two separate fish holds. And now we need to create a hatch to get into the back one. So that's what we're starting to do right now, is just kind of line it out, figure where we need to cut this deck, and start putting in some new beams and cross members. Get this lined out, we'll fire up the skill saw, rip this layer of plywood off to start with, and then get in there and get a good look at our beams and figure out exactly where we want to cut them. We're shooting for 3x4 on this back hold.
Yeah, we went and compared it to the hatch on the fishtail. It's actually interesting. Our middle hold, our big side that folds up on our hinged hatch, is pretty much that 3x4, a little bit smaller, but
yep.
So it gave us a good idea for how big this opening will be and if it would work out for us.
So I guess we'll make a few lines here and fire up the skill saw.
Yep.
And bust this thing open.
Make a bigger hole.
Mm-hmm. And meanwhile, up forward, this is where we're at. We trimmed down our original hatch covers, or excuse me, the original coaming, and this is the height we're going with the intention of putting a false deck on later. We're happy with the way it came out. Very happy to be able to reuse this material. It's wasteful to have to throw stuff away, and so that makes us pretty happy to be able to kind of recycle, reuse on this. It worked out real good. Just came in and cut this area out, ran the skill saw along this way, broke that piece out, and now it'll come down here, give us a nice overlap. We'll lay a couple more layers of glass over the top of this and it'll really beef it up then. So really all I have to do is just come in here and trim this edge down a little bit, and it's pretty much good to go. And I'll do the same with the rest. We'll have to cut these down a little bit, and that's going to work out nice.
Yeah, very nice.
Yeah, I like the looks of it. It looks good. These were a good build on these, so it's nice to be able to reuse them and save us a lot of time and material.
And figuring too.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this is probably a solid half day of figuring your cuts and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, we're not super fast builders, so I mean, that'd probably, by the time it's all said and done, that'd probably take like 2 days to make that.
Yeah.
In reality. And it didn't take very long. I think I spent less than an hour cutting that down.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, that's great.
So we got our other pieces over here. We'll drag those over here and get those trimmed up and start getting that fit into place. And once those are in, then we can think about getting some glass down on that bare wood right there on deck, and then we won't have to worry about the weather. So that being said, I guess we'll get after it, huh?
Yep.
So that line looks good, huh? I think.
Yeah.
Just go for it.
Just go for it.
Just go for it.
Yeah, just go for it.
So maybe about right there, huh? So the plan here is this is going to get cut and that's going to get cut. There's a beam here and a beam here. And then there should be one about in here, and that gives us about the right size that we need of an opening. So we're just going to kind of rough cut it out, and then we have to get in there, and I'm sure we'll have to put some new wood down just to tie things together. It'll be kind of hard to frame this stuff out.
Yeah.
Without removing the deck and getting it out of the way and trimming back the beams enough to tie into them. couple of tabs up here on the ceiling. Keep our laminate from getting pulled down. Make sure that, yeah.
Should I kind of slice through it real quick?
Yeah, just bust through there, man. Burst yourself through the wall. Okay. What have we done?
We've exposed the ribs.
Here, yes, the skeleton, yes.
Pretty dry.
Yeah, it seems better back here, huh?
Yeah, a little bit damp on the wood, but the foam doesn't seem to absorb much.
Yeah, that's a good thing. Looks good though, it's gonna work out nice.
Yeah, reveal the rest of it, and then we can start reframing. Get it cleaned up on the edges, I guess, first.
Yeah, we got to come back over a little bit more. We just cut our hole bit big down there, but now we can trim these beams. I guess these beams will get trimmed even with this piece, right?
Yep.
Saws all down from here, saws all down from here. same thing with the foam carefully, and then we can bust that stuff out. And same thing, dig back to this other beam, and then we'll trim this deck even with it, huh?
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Alright guys, well, a little bit further to go to meet up halfway on the beam right here, but this is pretty much the opening that will be here.
Yeah, chisel
Minus
a couple
a little
little
bit on
holes
this side,
and
actually.
take a quick measurement here, and then we can trim back, I guess, huh?
Yeah.
I think we're just shooting for flush with it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep. Affirmative.
Yep, so we're just gonna start our hatch here. It'll end here. Be a little spot in between for some framing.
Okay, guys. So it's been a very productive day. Right now, Dad's just finishing up fitting this other half of the coaming. Very nice, very nice.
Ah,
Oh, that looks good.
there we go.
So,
Gotta trim it to length there and do the same thing 2 more times.
yeah,
Whew.
that looks good.
Yeah.
It's a nice, comfortable height. I think it'll be a good mod.
I think so too. I think it's exactly where we want it to be, and I like it.
Yeah. So it's been a pretty productive day. Before we got down here this morning, there was still deck here. Got down here, cut the hatch hole for our rear hold, and got frame back in. So it's been a really good day. Dad got that done. We did some thinking on what we're gonna do here too on the coaming, and we're gonna make it the same height as that one. Just kind of works out better that way as far as false deck goes. Just make it one consistent layer and not have to worry about putting some sort of insert over this back hatch.
Yeah, just one thing to mess with all the time.
Something you
pick
have
up
to
and
set
move.
aside,
Yep,
put it on your net or wherever. It's just another thing to kick around.
Yeah, if we're cod fishing or doing rockfish, it's one more thing to have to pick up and move, and it'll get waterlogged and heavy, and
Very
fun.
true. Yeah, it will.
or at least it'll get a little bit heavy after a while.
Yep.
Always heavy having to move stuff around. So yeah, things look good.
Yeah, so we just got playing off this other 2x6 right here. We gave this one a crown to match the center of the deck there.
Yep. Have to.
Put a piece of plywood there or something to plane down and match that same crown.
Yeah, just give it a little crown. That way the strip of plywood that we put in there is consistent and it doesn't look weird or turn into a big problem. And then, yeah, tie that in. Trim this back a little bit. Put an overlap on this. We'll just do the same thing here. We'll cut this 3/4 inch in a little bit. Put a layer of that down and cut the top layer back a little bit further and lay it down, and that'll tie that in. And
Yeah, give it some strength, right?
and then our coaming will just go right on top of this. That'll be fine. Yeah, so thumbs up, a good day.
Yeah.
Nice to have this kind of fleshed out, so to speak. Not much else to do in there. Just trim this fiberglass back. That's no big deal. Take a couple of minutes with the grinder. And yeah, guess for now it's time to call it a day, I think. It's been a good day.
Yeah, it has. Yep, anyway, we'll bring you guys back tomorrow, continue our projects.
Yeah, thanks for joining us.
Yep, thanks for watching. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and stay tuned for more.